Part 12. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, Beautiful. Chapter 111. Chapter 111 Aerospace Project. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Okay, I won't beat around the bush, it's like this. Zhang Qiao got straight to the point. It turns out that Zhang Qiao was a graduate student at a key university. After the last competition, his talent was noticed by the superiors and he was invited to join the confidential project. He cannot tell you the specifics of the project yet, but there is an urgent problem facing everyone involved in the project, which is the lack of a computer expert. Will there be a shortage of computer masters here? Yunsu didn't understand. In this talent base with hidden dragons and crouching tigers, he was afraid that he could not find a master? Isn't that the hacker Chu Hai just mentioned? It's different. Zhang Qiao shook his head. In addition to strong computer skills, you also need mathematical skills. In my opinion, you are the most suitable candidate. Yunsu's work in the last science and technology creation competition was enough to show her amazing abilities in computers. Later, we learned that she was the gold medal winner in the mathematics competition. Computers and mathematics must be Yunsu's. Don't worry, as long as you join, the project subsidies and bonuses will be generous, and your efforts will not be in vain. It's not because of this. Yunsu shook his head. I am just a student participating in the training here. How can I join the confidential project you mentioned? Don't worry about this. I will report to the superiors and recommend you. Of course there will be some assessments, but I believe your ability is not a problem. Zhang Qiao has great confidence in Yunsu. Okay. Chu Hai nodded disappointedly, thinking that there was some explosive information. Yunsu pondered for a while. The training here is indeed quite boring. She can find something to kill time, but she still has a question. Can you tell me a little bit about what the project is about? Aerospace. Yunsu was really shocked. How could aerospace projects be carried out here? Not to mention that such experiments are usually carried out in the deserted Gobi. The level of confidentiality of aerospace projects alone is not up to the level of the space, so Zhang Qiao should be talking about aerospace-related projects, such as aerospace materials. Zhang Qiao was overjoyed and said, okay. What did you say? Do you have a suitable candidate recommended to be responsible for the calculation work? In a remote laboratory at the base, the project team leader He Renping had just completed a set of experiments and said with a frown. Zhang Qiao was stuck. If he said that Yunsu was a sophomore in high school, would he be kicked out by the team leader? Oh, hearing what he said, He Renping became a little interested. Is she also a graduate student? Are you a classmate? Has she had any academic achievements? Zhang Qiao hesitated for a moment and then said, aerospace. Eat quickly. After class starts tomorrow, it won't be so leisurely. Li Yan reminded a few people. Yunsu became a little interested and said, okay, you can ask your opinions on the project first and then tell me. The two exchanged contact information. Zhang Qiao also had experiments to do, so he left first. Sister Yun, what did that person want to do with you just now? Chu Hai couldn't control his curiosity and asked. Yes, team leader Zhang Qiao strongly recommended Yunsu. She is very capable and has a high talent for mathematics. Alas, several people sighed in unison. Something happened. Ask me if I can help. Yunsu said it straight away, and it was not appropriate to spread the word about the matter that had not yet been written. Although the Xiaozhang is young and has always been taciturn, he is very capable and works hard. But when he suddenly said that there was a suitable candidate to take charge of the computing section of the project, He Renping still didn't believe it. Team leader, the person I'm talking about is relatively young, but there is no doubt about his ability. I can guarantee that. Zhang Qiao vowed. He Renping's brows furrowed further. Younger? You're not talking about a college student, are you? That's definitely not possible. You also know that the calculation work in our project is huge and complicated, and an undergraduate cannot handle it. It's not a college student, it's a high school student. Zhang Jiao felt a little unsure for some reason. Sure enough, He Renping's face sank. College student? Xiao Zhang, are you here to make fun of me? If you have nothing to do, just do a few sets of experiments. No, team leader, listen to me. Although she is only in high school, you cannot look at her from the perspective of a high school student. She was the first place in the National Science and Technology Creation Competition that I participated in. First place? He Renping was stunned. Zhang Jiao went on to say, she is at our base now. She came to participate in the IMO training. She is the number 1 CMO in this session. There are many number 1 CMOs, but not everyone is suitable. He Renping still feels that it is not reliable. There are many number 1, but what about the number 1 CMO who has perfect scores all the way? She is the first and only one. If you don't believe it, you can call the person in charge of their training and ask if there is a person named Yunsu. A girl, how are your abilities? Zhang Jiao spared no effort to convince him. Okay, I understand. You go down first and I'll think about it. He Renping waved his hands, as if he didn't want to talk anymore. Zhang Jiao had no choice but to leave, preparing to find another time to have a good talk with the team leader. A CMO gold medalist with perfect scores all the way? It seemed that there was indeed something. He Renping thought for a while and asked someone to get the phone number of Chen Zhirun, the person in charge of the training camp, and called him. Anyway, it doesn't take much effort just to make a phone call and ask. Hello? Hello. Chen Zhirun's voice was filled with confusion. Who was looking for him? It was still the base's internal phone number. Professor Chen? I am He Renping from Group C. He Renping introduced himself. Chen Zhirun is also a teacher at a key university, so it is right to call him professor. Hello, leader He, what's the matter? Chen Zhirun has a higher level and naturally knows that He Renping is the person in charge of a project, but the two of them have never had any contact, so they are even more confused about what He Renping would do to find him. I heard that you have a student named Yunsu. Yes, what's wrong? Why is Yunsu involved? It's like this. Our project is currently short of manpower and needs talents in computer and mathematics. Someone in our group knows Yunsu and recommended her to me. I'm calling you just to ask about her situation. He Renping explained his intention. Chen Zhirun was silent. Yunsu had only been away for a short time when the project leader found her. Although gold shines everywhere, her light shined too fast. After organizing his language, Chen Zhirun replied seriously, I dare not say anything about computers, but in terms of mathematics, she is the most terrifyingly talented student I have ever seen in my life. Have talents been described as terrifying? He Renping was a little confused. By the way, if you want to know more about her, you can ask academician Meng Huai. He is also very concerned about Yunsu. It is said that he even invited Yunsu to be his student. Academician Meng Huai? He Renping's eyes widened in shock. What on earth is this girl capable of? She could make academician Meng Huai say that he would accept her as his disciple. Okay, thank you. After hanging up the phone, He Renping thought about it and called Zhang Jiao again. Hello, team leader, is there anything else? Zhang Jiao asked doubtfully. Let Yunsu prepare for a test tomorrow. Really? Great. I'll tell her right away. Zhang Jiao was overjoyed and agreed. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 112. Chapter 112 Hacker Father and Son. Tomorrow, Yunsu was surprised when she received a call from Zhang Jiao. So fast, Zhang Jiao is so efficient. Did he convince the people in the project team so easily? Okay, Area C, right, I understand. Yunsu hung up the phone. Li Yanzhuang had just come out from the shower and was wiping her hair. Susu, go take a shower quickly. Good. After turning off the lights, Yunsu lay on the bed, not feeling sleepy at all, and inexplicably thought of Qin Jiao's face. Although she was drunk last night, she clearly remembered every word and look in Qin Jiao's eyes. Sigh, Yunsu sighed in her heart and turned over. After living for so many years, she is not an ignorant little girl, nor is she stupid. She can clearly see the affection in Qin Jiao's eyes. She rarely feels at a loss, but now she really doesn't know how to face Qin Jiao's feelings. She doesn't hate Qin Jiao, but if she likes him, she doesn't seem to be that far away. There is a vague feeling in her heart that she can't tell clearly. Forget it, don't think about it for now, just let nature take its course. Since he doesn't mention it, she will still treat him as a friend. Drowsiness came over her in a daze, and Yunsu fell asleep. Suppose S is a connected and smooth regular surface in a three-dimensional Euclidean space. There are three different straight lines passing through every point on S and falling on the surface S. Prove that S is part of the plane. This question is a real question in the finals of a certain college mathematics competition. To solve this question, you must first set the values. For example, K1 and K2 are the main curvatures of the surface S. Teacher Sun on the stage was spitting. Students take notes like crazy. Teacher Li. Where are you going? Chen Zhirun asked. The first day of training was about the real questions of the university competition, but no one raised any questions. Almost all the people present had already gone through the university knowledge, and this extra step was nothing to them. Go. Yunsu didn't know whether to talk about this or not. Yunsu turned around and saw Chen Zhirun leaning against the wall with his arms folded, obviously just to block her. Okay, once everyone has solved this problem, get out of class is over. Teacher Sun assigned the topic. He picked up her answer sheet, looked at it, waved his hand and said, let's go at her level. It didn't matter whether she listened to this kind of class or not. There were several experimenters in lab coats standing nearby. They looked at each other and wondered why team leader he would listen to Zhang Jiao and really let a high school student do the test. Chen Zhirun smiled and said, go quickly, don't embarrass me or our team. Stop. This child. Chen Zhirun laughed. Chen Zhirun, Area C, right? You are really promising. On the second day after you arrived, the leader of the project team asked about you and heard that you came here. Yunsu suddenly realized, no wonder it happened so quickly. Chen Zhirun must have spoken to her over there. 3 minutes later, Yunsu raised his hand, okay, teacher, I'm done. Can I leave first? Yunsu packed her things and just walked out of the classroom. Sorry, I'm late. The base is relatively large, and they are training in Area A. Yunsu ran all the way here, panting slightly. There is a message from Zhang Jiao. In a laboratory on the third floor of Area C, He Renping looked at his watch and frowned, why aren't you here yet? Zhang Jiao quickly explained, she was in class just now and has already come over. She will be there soon. Yes, Yunsu put her legs together, gave a playful salute, and ran away. Everyone is waiting with the intention of watching a good show. He Renping looked at the girl in front of him, can he really do it at such a young age? Yunsu, right? Hello, I am the person in charge of this project, He Renping. Yunsu politely replied, hello, I am Yunsu. Time is of the essence, so I will keep the story short. I have learned about you from Coach Chen. You are a gold medal winner with perfect scores in CMO. I believe in your ability in mathematical calculations. Now I mainly need to test your computer ability. What do you have here? What's the problem? Yunsu said without thinking, I have no problem. Okay, seeing Yunsu being so straightforward, He Renping also had a good impression of her. He looked at the corner of the laboratory and said, Hang Mo, hurry up. Half a minute passed and there was no response. He Renping gritted his teeth, if you don't get up, I will smash your computer. Do you believe it? His chi nurturing skills have been completely ruined since Hang Mo came to the laboratory. 10 seconds later, in the corner blocked by the experimental equipment, a man slowly sat up from the chair. He was wearing a sweatshirt and jeans. His hair was like a chicken coop, and his eyebrows were pretty, a bit unruly. He walked over slowly. What's the matter? His voice was still hoarse as if he had just woken up. Yunsu was surprised. Isn't this the boy in the cafeteria whom Chu Hai jokingly said was recruited? Your partner is here, do you want to get to know each other? He Renping said it tactfully, but everyone present understood that he wanted Hang Mo to test Yunsu's level. The people in the laboratory were talking quietly on the sidelines. Although this kid Hang Mo looks lazy, he is really good. Can this girl do it? A CMO gold medal winner with a perfect score does have some skills, but this does not mean that she can also do it in our field. After all, every other line is like a mountain. Zhang Qiao silently moved to Yunsu and said in a low voice, this Hang Mo is very powerful. He once broke into the database of a secret research institute. You are here to atone for your sins. Come on. Hang Mo was sleepy-eyed and forced himself to cheer up, my partner. He seemed to have heard that He Renping was looking for a computer expert with strong math skills. Could it be the girl in front of him? Hang Mo glanced at He Renping. Did he wake up too? You. One short word reflected his inner doubt. It's me, how do I want to play? He Renping and others stepped aside, leaving them to discuss. Hang Mo didn't want to make it too complicated. It's simple, there are just two computers, whoever breaks into the other computer first wins. Yunsu nodded, okay, it was indeed a hacker style. To be fair, we all use the computers in the laboratory, you choose first. Hang Mo didn't want to bully a little girl. Okay, the computers in the laboratory were actually quite high-end, so Yunsu pointed to the one closest to her. Seeing how casual Yunsu was, Hang Mo finally became a little interested. The two sat down in front of the computer and the confrontation began. Zhang Qiao stood behind Yunsu with a nervous expression. Yunsu insisted on recommending her, and he most hoped that she would win. He Renping carefully observed the movements on both sides. Hang Mo did not underestimate the enemy because the other party was a girl younger than him. He established a strong firewall in a few seconds and then tried to invade Yunsu's computer. Yunsu had been calm and looked at Zhang Qiao, who was getting anxious. However, no matter how fierce Hang Mo's offensive was, Yunsu still moved slowly and leisurely, leaving no gap for Hang Mo to take advantage of. Time passed, and a few minutes passed. Yunsu's typing on the keyboard suddenly stopped. Why did Hang Mo's intrusion feel a little familiar to her, as if she had seen it with other people? Yunsu stopped teasing him and increased his speed with both hands. Within 2 minutes, Hang Mo's defense that he thought was impenetrable collapsed, and Yunsu entered in one fell swoop to seize control of his computer. The game was over, and it was clear who was victorious and who was defeated, and the laboratory was suddenly so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Zhang Qiao was stunned. She knew that Yunsu was very powerful, but she didn't expect that Yunsu could be so powerful. Hang Mo was a person who could break into the institute's database, but he was defeated in just 10 minutes. He Renping was overjoyed. This little girl is really a treasure. The people in the laboratory were also in disbelief that she actually won so easily. Hang Mo no longer looked lazy. He stared at Yunsu closely, with emotion and anger unclear on his face. Who are you? Hang Mo asked about Yunsu's name and identity in the hacker world. It's not that he is conceited, there is one person in China who can defeat him in such a short period of time, and he will definitely not be an unknown person. Yunsu did not answer his question directly, but asked him, do you know someone? His name is Hong Yi. Your offensive and defensive methods are very similar. Red clothes. Hang Mo stood up suddenly, his calm expression broken. Do you know Hong Yi? Have you ever fought against him? How could he not know Hong Yi? He is the person that Hang Mo admires most and wants to defeat the most in the world. As for why the two of them have similar offensive and defensive methods, it is because Hong Yi taught Hang Mo all his computer skills. Hong Yi is his father. Hong Yi once led many domestic hackers to fight offensive and defensive wars against country A. Everyone has heard of his name, but what does this have to do with Hong Yi? Well, we met once. Yun-Su nodded. Hong Yi was the most powerful hacker she had ever encountered so far, so her memory was quite profound. A one-time relationship. Hang Mo repeated the sentence and suddenly thought of a possibility. Is it Lishan in Lanchange? Yun-Su didn't expect him to react so quickly. She nodded, yes. Your name is Yun-Su? Yun-Su, Yun-Su, you are Su. Hang Mo blurted out her name after reciting it several times, looking horrified. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. Isn't Yun-Su just Su? Why is Hang Mo so surprised? You are Su, you are actually Su. This incredible voice belonged to Zhang Qiao. Others don't know who Su is, but he knows. Who is Su? That was a legend who defeated the Red Code within 10 minutes. He was a top master without any information. To this day, the legend about Su is still talked about in hacker forums, and there are various speculations about her identity. Su had taken on several tasks in the hacker forum before, but then she disappeared for unknown reasons. Countless people wanted to find her, and some even offered huge rewards for any clues about Su. Such a mysterious Su actually lifted the veil and appeared in front of him so suddenly. Zhang Qiao felt like she could hardly breathe. Everyone thought Su was a young man. Who would have thought that she was actually a girl who was still in high school? I am convinced to lose to Su. Hang Mo smiled bitterly. He had nothing to be unwilling to lose to someone who could defeat his father within 10 minutes. It's just that since he was a child, he has regarded his father as his highest goal. Now he realizes that there are people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the world. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 113. Chapter 113. His worries. He Renping, Xiaozhang, what are you talking about? The more I listen, the more confused I become. Who is Su? He vaguely felt that the name Su had an extraordinary meaning. It was rare that Zhang Qiao had such a big mood swing. He calmed down and said only one sentence. Su defeated the man in red within 10 minutes. He was trembling when he said this. There was a clear sound of gasping in the laboratory. Hong Yi was one of the top 3 players in the country. Su could actually defeat him within 10 minutes. How terrifying was his strength. Zhang Qiao actually said, "This girl is Su?" He Renping's expression changed. He was at a higher level than the others and knew more inside information. Hong Yi was a hacker that the higher UPS had been fighting for, but now there was a hacker more terrifying than Hong Yi standing in front of him. Does the higher UPS know about Su's true identity? This idea only passed through his mind for a moment. He was even more happy that the manpower they needed had finally been found. Your test passed, but we still need to submit an application to the higher authorities, so we need you to wait a little longer. Time is running out, and He Renping also wants Yun-Su to join the Tao project immediately, but the procedures that need to be followed are not few. Yun-Su nodded to show that he understood, but it was nothing more than memorizing the same thing. Okay, then I'll leave first. He Renping ordered, Xiaozhang, send Xiaosu a favor. In a short period of time, the title changed from classmate Yun-Su to Xiaosu. Wait, I have something to tell you. Hang Mo stopped Yun-Su. Although the process only lasted 2 days, Yunsu didn't know that the news that she wanted to apply to join the project was reported all the way to Li Biding's desk in the Beijing military region. Hang Mo nodded regretfully, okay, I'll tell him. Zhang Jiao has something to do with me, Yunsu said. Okay. After the two of them left the laboratory, Hang Mo hesitated and said, since I left the mountain last time, my dad, Hong Ai has always wanted to compete with you again, but there is no news about Su anywhere. Do you have time? I can inform him immediately. She shook her head, I'm sorry, I may not have the time. The last time I competed with him was also caused by an accident. Please help me refuse, but if there is a chance to meet again in the future, there will be no communication. Questionable. Ever since the battle with Su Na, his father has almost fallen into a state of madness. In addition to studying technology, he also tries to find information about Su everywhere. Although Yunsu didn't agree, it was an unexpected surprise that he now knew Su's identity. I have to say that He Renping's work efficiency is still high. Within 2 days, Yunsu's application for joining the group came down. In addition to the student card for entering and exiting the base, she also applied for a work card. Su, didn't you leave first? Why did you just go back to the dormitory? Li Yanzhuang was a little surprised when she returned to the dormitory after class and didn't see Yunsu. Li Biding found Ning Ziwen and showed him the materials. Yunsu heard the 2 words Hang Mo swallowed. It turned out that Hong Yi was his father. No wonder the 2 men's defense methods were so similar. Li Yanzhuang knew that Zhang Jiao was the boy who talked to Yunsu yesterday, so she didn't ask much. Oh, I heard that the sweet and sour short ribs in the cafeteria are in limited supply today, let's go quickly. Zhang Jiao didn't bother him and asked Hang Mo to send Yunsu out. This is it, Ning Ziwen took a look at it doubtfully, and his face lit up, this girl can really make a splash wherever she goes. Going to a training camp and being invited to join a confidential project, this could only happen to Yunsu. You didn't see the point. Li Biding shook his head, she is Su. Su, Ning Ziwen was stunned, and then his eyes widened when he realized it, how is that possible? He hurriedly looked at the information carefully. Even Ning Ziwen, who had seen strong winds and waves, was shocked, she turns out to be Su. When talking about Su, we have to mention Hong Yi. Hong Yi is a person they have been paying close attention to. He is very capable and has principles and a view of the overall situation. They have also invited him to work within the system, but Hong Yi does not like to be restrained. He declined politely and only occasionally helped them complete some tasks as a consultant. The first time they knew the name Su was in the hacker forum. The hacker forum was always monitored by official people, otherwise those hackers would have no idea how many things would happen. When the news that Su had broken through Hong Yi's defense within 10 minutes was posted on the forum, they didn't believe it at first, but soon they got a positive answer from Hong Yi. Speaking of Su, Hong Yi was full of praise, sigh to oneself. Su's strength also made them feel uneasy. There was also a top hacker out there. Once he had evil thoughts, the consequences would be disastrous. I never expected that the 2 people we are paying attention to are actually the same person, Li Biding also exclaimed, once again feeling frightened and surprised by this little girl. Ning Ziwen also smiled, I was originally worried that Su would do something bad, but now it seems I can let go of half of my worries. Don't worry. No, Li Biding's face turned a little solemn, do you remember what I said last time? There is only a thin line between genius and madness, not to mention that this child cannot be described by the word genius at all. She makes me feel, it's a bit scary. Ning Ziwen was shocked. An old leader who had experienced a battle and came back from the battlefield was actually afraid of a little girl. If you tell me, you will be laughed out of your mouth. Chief, are you worrying too much? I don't think this child has any bad intentions. Look at the previous project to develop a new drone. We gave nothing but a little allowance and honor. We couldn't even promote her. She didn't complain when her name was announced. Besides, she is just participating in a training camp for a competition and is willing to contribute to scientific research projects. I think she is a child with a righteous heart. Ning Ziwen racked his brains to speak for Yunsu. He really thought the child was good and didn't want to have doubts about her and hurt the child's heart. Li Biding saw his nervous look and suddenly smiled, seeing that you are anxious, that's all I said. I didn't say she has any problems now, it's just to prepare for a rainy day. That's good. Ning Ziwen breathed a sigh of relief. We have to make plans for her early and really win her over. Didn't academician Meng Huai say before that he wanted to accept her as a disciple? We can create a bridge between them. Meng Huai is a real great scholar of the country. If Yunsu really becomes Meng Huai's disciple, Li Biding believes that the bad things they speculated will never happen. You mean? Ning Ziwen was a smart man and understood what Li Biding meant. Li Biding nodded. Okay, I'll think of a way. By the way, tell Yang Xiao to raise Yunsu's level to another level, Li Biding said. Ning Ziwen was astonished in his heart. Going up to the next level, that is, the level of a senior scientific researcher who has already produced many scientific research results. It seems that the importance attached to Yunsu is really extraordinary. I'll do it right away. Ning Ziwen left. Li Biding looked at the materials on the table and sighed, hoping that this child would not disappoint them. Yunsu didn't know anything about the strange situation over there. In fact, it was not as complicated as they thought. She joined this project just because the training was too boring and she wanted to find something to do for herself. On the fourth day of training, Yunsu put on his work badge and officially joined the Peregrine experimental project. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, Beautiful. Chapter 114. Chapter 114 Calculation Procedures. Peregrine Falcon Project. As the name suggests, the peregrine falcon is almost the fastest diving creature in nature. Its diving speed can reach more than 300 km per hour, making it the undisputed king of speed. There is a small cone outside the nose of the peregrine falcon, which is used to prevent air from bypassing the nostrils when flying at high speed, allowing the airflow to flow smoothly into the nasal cavity and into the body. This is the secret of the ventilation of the peregrine falcon. The center of the front end of the inlet of early jet aircraft, there is also a cone that resembles the nostrils of a peregrine falcon. It's pretty much what Yunsu thought. This experimental project is about aerospace materials, which involves a lot of experimental calculations and data comparisons. Yunsu and Hangmo are responsible for this. The first thing he did on the first day he joined the group was to sign a confidentiality agreement, and Yunsu was already very familiar with it. Xiao Su, you and Hang Mo should discuss the specific sections that each of you is responsible for. The division of labor should be clear. Our project is very tight on time. We must produce results as soon as possible. The most important part of this is your efficiency. Soon we will be able to conduct more sets of experiments. Yunsu nodded, I understand. Since then, Yunsu, who was supposed to be training hard, would occasionally arrive late and leave early, but her homework was as perfect and beautiful as ever, with no mistakes. Several teachers also knew a little about the situation and had no choice but to turn a blind eye. The only person who is angry is Chen Zhirun. He is obviously his student, so it doesn't matter if he has to go to other places to work every day. The experimental project is important, but their IMO training is equally important. He blamed himself for praising Yunsu too much in front of He Renping, and now he really abducted her. Chen Zhirun deeply regretted it. The IMO championship has been won by other countries for several consecutive years. This year can be said to be the most confident year for Chen Zhirun. It is because of Yunsu that he does not want to make any mistakes. Yes, coach, we promise to only go there during our spare time. She is the person closest to Yunsu. She sees Yunsu going in and out every day and feels envious and admirable. They can afford the intensity of the current training camp and want to do other things. After all, this base is not something you can just come to if you want to. It's not a good feeling to know that there are treasures piled in front of you but you can't touch them. Ken. Chen's Hiran looked at the 4 students standing in front of him in silence, his temples twitching. Several people rushed to assure themselves, with sincere eyes. Chen's Hiran suddenly smiled. Originally I didn't agree with this arrangement, so I never mentioned it to you. Since you want to go on your own, I won't stop you. How about we find something to do? For example, any laboratory that needs odd jobs can help, and we can learn a lot, Li Yanzhuang tentatively said. Chen's Hiran was afraid of delaying the training camp, so he hesitated and put it in the drawer without taking it out. Unexpectedly, these students came to him on their own initiative. Several other people in the training team also discovered Yunsu's recent elusiveness. After asking, they learned that Yunsu had already studied and worked well and entered a confidential experimental project. But seeing that Yunsu could still take care of both sides, he was ready to take another look. Once the progress of the training was affected, he would have to get the people back even if he went to the boss's office to pound the table. Let me see. Chu Hai couldn't wait any longer. Li Yan took it first, opened the coil, and pulled out the information inside. When he saw it, his eyes widened with joy. This is it? What are you talking about? Do you want to help in the laboratory? It seems that I am still too kind to you, and I still want to do this. Wow. A few people looked at each other and said, Coach, we just want to learn more and won't delay the progress of the training camp. Chu Hai was so shameless that he burst into tears in his heart. He was so naive at the time that he would speak nonsense in front of Yunsu. Looking at their excitement, Chen's Hiran felt that he still had to pour cold water on them to calm down. Let me declare first that once your test scores decline, you must stop your internship there and come back to me to concentrate on training. He took out a file bag and said, let's take a look at them all. Chu Hai was the first to respond, okay, but we don't know people from other laboratories. Then shall we go find Coach Chen? The 3 boys who were eating seemed feasible. Although not as perverted as Yunsu, they could still do something within their capabilities. It turns out that the group examination committee looked at Yunsu's situation and had already arranged a short-term internship in a specific laboratory based on their own strengths. Yes. Several people promised in unison, and then happily went to their respective experimental groups to report. Let's talk about Yunsu. After joining the team, she and Hang Mo formed a partnership. Their daily work consisted of calculating experimental data and then reviewing it. Although Hang Mo looked lazy, he was still very serious about his work. Yunsu has carefully observed the specific experimental procedures of the Peregrine Falcon project. The majority of them are material experiments, which requires a huge amount of work. She thought for a moment and said to Hang Mo, do you think our current work efficiency is a bit low? Hang Mo, who was calculating data, stopped what he was doing to look at her. Inefficiency. In the past, the laboratory could only process a few hundred sets of data on average a day, but now it can process at least 1,000 sets every day. Is this called inefficiency? What do you want to do? Hang Mo had an intuition that she wanted to cause trouble. Should we make a program that can directly calculate automatically? Yunsu had actually been thinking about this since the first day she came in, but she didn't want to be too ostentatious when she first arrived. Calculation program, Hang Mo pondered for a while. I actually thought about it before, but it didn't work. Do you have any ideas? Look at this. Yunsu turned on his computer. Hang Mo was shocked. You are almost done. He thought he was just in the thinking stage. They both work together every day, and as far as he knows, she also participates in training every day. Where did she find the time to write? Do you want to try the finishing part? I'll watch it for you. Yunsu also discovered that Hang Emo did have amazing talents in computers and wanted to give him a try. Hang Emo felt a little flattered inexplicably. He had never doubted whether Yunsu had the ability to teach him. Yes, you come. Hang Emo was silent for a while. Okay, I'll try. Actually, it was said that Hang Emo would finish the work, but Yunsu's previous framework ideas had already been set up, so he only needed to follow her writing, which was not too difficult. Hang Emo spent 2 days finishing it, and then Yunsu made slight modifications to him to make the program run simpler and faster. After the program was created, Yunsu asked Hang Emo to take the initiative to find He Renping. Is something wrong? He Renping had just finished a set of experiments and looked tired. He was surprised when he looked at Hang Emo, who came to him. This guy has been in the laboratory for a few months. He rarely talks to people on his own initiative. He always does whatever is asked of him, but this time he actually came to him. Well, Su and I made something that may help with the progress of the project. Hang Emo didn't say too much. Oh? What did you do? He Renping became interested when he heard that Yunsu was also involved. When she went to report Yunsu's information before, she learned that this little girl was a person named and closely followed by the above. She was also told to report any movements of Yunsu to the above. Even if I wrote a program, it doesn't count as something Su and I did. I just did some finishing touches. He would not covet the credit that should be Yunsu's. Procedure? What procedure? Hang Emo didn't know how to explain it for a moment. You'll know after I come and take a look. He Renping took off his gloves and followed Hang Emo to the computer where they worked. Could you please give me a set of values for the experimental materials? Yunsu said. He Renping didn't understand what he meant, but he still called an experimenter in the team. Xiao Wu, bring a set of values from yesterday's experimental materials. Yunsu input the initial values of the experimental data and started the calculation program. A series of dazzling codes were generated. It only took 1 minute for all the values to be reviewed and the final result was obtained. This result is exactly the same as the result calculated yesterday. He Renping was stunned. He never expected that the program they were talking about was a program that could calculate data and verify it, and it was very fast. Yunsu continued, this program can also calculate multiple sets of data at the same time. At this speed, the experimental efficiency should be improved. Not only is it improving the efficiency of the experiment, at this pace, all their data will soon be calculated and they will enter the next stage of the experiment. Thinking of this, He Renping's breathing became heavy. He didn't expect that these two makeshift partners could give him such a big surprise. He Renping immediately said, Xiao Su, Hang Emo, I will give you a credit for this matter first, and I will definitely apply to the superiors for the rewards you deserve. I don't need it. These are all the work of Su alone. Hang Emo must make this clear. He will never touch anything he doesn't deserve. If you also participated, you have merit. He Renping did not hesitate to comment. He was very pleased with Hang Emo for the first time. With this program, Yunsu started to have some free time again, wandering around in the laboratory every day. The experimenter thought she didn't understand and didn't shy away from her. Anyway, Yunsu was also a member of their project team. Until one day, an experimenter repeated the same experiment many times and got different values. Yunsu finally couldn't help but pointed out her problem. It was a subtle error in a certain step of the experiment. Bias leads to erroneous results. The experimenter was dubious, but he still followed Yunsu's correction and did the experiment again, and the result was right. He stood there dumbfounded, unable to believe that he was being taught how to do an experiment by a high school student. No, the point is why she should understand what experiment he is doing. Do you understand everything? The experimenter said with a trembling voice. I understand. Yunsu returned casually, but it was a critical blow to the experimenter. This was too shocking. He was about to cry without tears when he went to find He Renping to report the incident. He Renping was overjoyed. After another examination of Yunsu, he arranged for her to be assisted by a senior laboratory technician. When things are put to their best use, people make the best use of their talents. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 115. Chapter 115, Golden Needle Detoxification. The days at the base were spent in training and experiments. They were busy and fulfilling. More than half a month passed quickly. Chen's Hirun showed mercy and gave everyone 3 days of vacation. Although the 3-day holiday is not much, everyone can have a good rest, but Yunsu cannot rest. She has to go back to Lanqing, and Jun Weie's poison must be detoxified. After explaining the matters at hand, Yunsu was ready to return to Lanqing. Just as he was about to take a taxi to the airport, Qin Jiao called. Let's eat something first. Qin Jiao handed Yunsu a lunch box, which was packed from Yulon. Knowing that Yunsu was on holiday, he originally wanted to ask her out for dinner. But when he heard that she was going back to Lanqing, he had no choice but to pack the food. When Yunsu opened the food box, the food inside was still steaming hot. She paused with her hands. Yuian's nearest store was about 10 kilometers away from here. Although the lunch box was insulated, it would not remain at this temperature. How much does it cost? Came here at such speed? What's wrong? Qin Jiao saw that she made no move after opening the lunch box. Nothing. Yunsu slowly took a chopstick of fish meat and put it into his mouth. It was smooth, tender and sweet. It still had the same taste, but there seemed to be something different about it. He felt an inexplicable feeling of pride rising in his heart. No one could compare to his little girl. Jun Wei, a gentleman from Lanqing, is the owner of the horse farm I went to with Qin Cheng and the others. He gave me a horse as a courtesy and I helped him treat his illness. Yunsu walked far away and turned his head for no reason during the security check. He was shocked to find that Qin Jiao was still standing where he was. There is a patient who needs to go back and take a look. When it came to Jun Weie's privacy, Yunsu did not go into details. With his tall and pine-like figure, Yunsu could be seen at a glance. Yunsu turned around hurriedly as if she had been stabbed, and her heart rate suddenly accelerated. Qin Jiao nodded. The 80% Yunsu said was basically a 100% certainty. Yun Daijin said distressedly, "Go home quickly, Dad has made you something to eat." Qin Jiao's car drove smoothly and at a not too slow pace, and arrived at the airport half an hour later. "Okay, send me a message when you get there." He sent Yunsu into the airport hall. Qin Jiao recalled that he had met Jun Wei from the Jun family in Lanqing several times. He was a figure. When he knew about his physical condition, he felt a little sorry. Unexpectedly, Yunsu became his doctor. Behind her, Qin Jiao saw her turning back and smiled quietly. "Yunsu, I'm leaving first." "Patient, isn't Linju almost well? Who else needs her to run all the way back?" "Dad, I'm so tired." As soon as he saw Yun Daijin, Yunsu showed his defenseless side. "Are you sure?" He couldn't help but ask after hearing that Jun Wei had a terminal illness that couldn't be cured. "Okay." Yunsu perked up instantly. She hadn't eaten her father's food for more than half a month. When she left, she thought her father had stuffed her with too many things, but she was taken away by Chu Hai in a few seconds. Those few divided it up unceremoniously. Yunsu nodded and went to print out her boarding pass and check in. Qin Jiao stood there and watched her off. It was already 8 o'clock at night when the plane arrived in Lanqing, and Yun Daijin drove a car to pick her up. 80% Yunsu couldn't say too much. In fact, the poison on Jun Wei was in the interstellar era. A shot of the antidote would take effect immediately, and he would be full of energy immediately. Is there anything going on back in Lanqing? Qin Jiao was a little regretful. Baiyuanzhou had a village on the outskirts of Beijing with nice scenery. Seeing that Yunsu had been busy for so long, he planned to take her there to have fun and relax, but he didn't expect the plan. Can't keep up with changes. Yunting had already fallen asleep when he returned home. Yunsu collapsed on the sofa and sighed comfortably. It was indeed better to be at home. Come and have something to eat. Yoon Daejin went in and out of the kitchen, reheating the dishes he had prepared earlier. There was also chicken soup stewed on the stove. Yunsu blew it, took a sip, and narrowed his eyes with satisfaction. How many days will it take you to come back? Yoon Daejin asked. 3 days, then I'll stay there for another half month, and then I'll go back to country or in about a week, Yunsu said. The next arrangement. So busy? Running around, Yoon Daejin sighed. Although this was good for the child, he couldn't bear the thought of her running around at such a young age. It's okay, Dad, when I go to college next year and buy a house there, I won't have to do this. Yunsu finished the last sip of soup. Yoon Daejin was startled. You mean to move to the capital? It hadn't been long since they moved to Lanchinge. But he knew that his daughter always had ideas, but he still hesitated. Dad, I'm not moving here completely, I'm just buying a house there. You can live wherever you want, Yunsu explained. She knew that the place her dad wanted to stay the most was actually Xiaoshui town. Yunsu plans to build a house according to her father's ideas in Xiaoshui town in the future. Yoon Daejin breathed a sigh of relief. If he really had to live in the capital, he wouldn't be able to bear it. He murmured a few times and said, Susu, my dad's business has been good recently, and he wants to open a branch. What do you think, Sample? Yunsu was surprised. She didn't expect that her father's business was really booming, and he had the idea of opening a branch. She naturally raised her hands to support it. Yes, Dad, just do it boldly. Then you can help Dad find a suitable location for the new store. Now that Yoon Daejin has made money, he has more choices. Yunsu thought for a while and said, when choosing a location for a new store, first of all, it cannot be too far away from the current store. After all, the customers who come to our store are all because of the taste of our store. Now we have a certain reputation. If it is too far away, it will need to be reopened. Enter the local catering market, but don't be too close. If you are too close, the customer base will be scattered. I think Boya Middle School is a good place. There are schools and residential areas next to it. You can go and see if there is any suitable place. Shop. Okay, Dad will close the store for the day tomorrow, so I'll go and have a look. Yoon Su's words pointed out the direction for Yoon Daejin. His daughter is so smart. Early on the next morning, Yoon Daejin made breakfast for the siblings and went out happily. Yoon-soo rarely sent Yunting to school, and Yunting was very excited. Sister, can you always send me to school in the future? Yunting looked at her with big eyes. Yoon-soo touched his head. Why? I said my sister is the most beautiful sister in the world. There is a classmate in our class who insists that his sister is the most beautiful. If you often send me to school, you can show him whose sister is the prettiest. Yoon-soo couldn't laugh or cry. Is it because of this? No, Yunting said in a low voice, I also want to see my sister every day. Yoon-soo's heart suddenly softened, knowing that he was running around and rarely had time to accompany Yunting. He was sensible and never made trouble, but in his heart he still hoped that his father and sister could always accompany him. She said in a soft voice, Sister, I promise you, I will send you to school as long as you have time, okay? Okay, Yunting said excitedly. After sending Yunting to school, Yoon-soo went to Jun's house. At Jun's house, Jun Taemshi kept pacing in the living room, looking at the clock on the wall from time to time. Jun Wei was helpless. Dad, can you sit down? It's so dazzling that my eyes are dazzled. Can I sit down? Jun Taemshi glared at him. Susu will come to detoxify you today. We'll see if it succeeds. Didn't Susu say it? She is at least 80% sure. Huntangshi was silent. What if? I can't bear that eventuality. He was 80% sure that 20% of it was still unresolved. Rationally, he should believe Yunsu, but how could a father think about it when his son's life was in danger? Is there any sense? Junwei felt his father's uneasiness and fell silent. Ji Sunkyu on the other side rolled his eyes and took a sip of tea. What's going on with you, father and son? It's obviously a good thing that makes you feel so heavy. Think about it a month or two ago, what would you have thought? Is there today? Ji Sunkyu can be said to be the one who has the most confidence in Yunsu at that time. He is a doctor, and he can better understand that Yunsu's medical achievements have reached a level that is beyond the reach of others. Yes, Jun Tamshi and Jun Wei were immediately relieved. A month or two ago, they would never have thought that there would be a day when they could detoxify. Jun Wei was almost waiting for death, and Jun Tamshi couldn't sleep every day and night. Lest the white-haired man send the black-haired man away. Even if Jun Wei's poison cannot be cured now, it has stabilized and they still have a lot of time to think of a solution. Miss Yun is here, the servant came in to report. Jun Tamshi went out to greet her. Susu, you're here. Yunsu hesitated. I'm not late, am I? No, no. Jun Tamshi immediately denied it. At least I am impatient. Yunsu nodded, understanding the feeling of a father living in a different place. If it were her father, he would probably be even worse than Huntangshi. Is the medicine ready? After greeting Ji Sunkyu, Yunsu didn't waste any time and got straight to the point. It's fried, Mother Wang, bring it here quickly. Jun Tamshi shouted towards the kitchen. Not long after, Wang Ma came over with a bowl of dark medicine. Just by looking at it, you could tell that it tasted extremely unpleasant. Drink half first, and finish the other half later, Yunsu said. Let's go into the room. Okay, okay. After Jun Wei drank the medicine, the four of them entered the room. Yunsu asked Jun Wei to take off his upper body clothes, which he did. Jun Wei was lying on the bed with his upper body naked. Yunsu took out the cloth bag and pulled out a slender golden needle with his right hand. With his left hand, he pressed down along his sternum, wandering all the way, but he still didn't insert the needle. Jun Tamshi was already nervous beside him and did not dare to express his anger for fear of disturbing Yunsu. Ji Sunkyu did not blink for fear of missing any of Yunsu's movements. After groping back and forth several times, Yunsu twisted the golden needle and pricked it in quickly and accurately. Huntang missed a beat. After the first needle was inserted, it became much easier to apply the remaining needles. As Yunsu inserted the needles faster and faster, more and more needles were inserted. Jun Wei clearly felt that there was a flow of air in his chest. Every time this energy passed through, he felt that the pain he had suffered all year round was relieved. Ji Sunkyu's eyes grew wider and wider. If Yunsu hadn't been applying the acupuncture, he would have yelled. How wonderful! This is the complete golden needle passing through the acupuncture points. It is really wonderful. Soon, it was the last injection. Yunsu did not insert this injection as quickly as before. Her eyes were like a torch, as if she could see every texture and every bone inside through his skin. 2 minutes later, Yunsu no longer hesitated, inserted a needle, and the complete needle shape was completed. He gently twisted the needle, and there was a faint buzzing sound. Almost at the moment when the needle was inserted, Jun Wei felt a majestic chi rising in his chest, rushing through every meridian of his body, as if looking for an exit. Jun Wei's face was slightly distorted. One time. The next second, a fishy sweetness surged up in his throat, and he spit out a mouthful of extremely dark blood. Wei, Huntang Shi shouted, his eyes full of panic. Ji Sunkyu was overjoyed. I spit out the poisonous blood. Half of the poison has been cured. Yunsu nodded. Half of it was indeed cured, and the remaining half needed to be treated with medicine. What? After hearing Ji Sun Kai's words, Hun Tangshi regained his consciousness and asked blankly. The poison has been cured. Ji Sun Kai looked at his silly look and slapped him on the head. Hun Tangshi is not angry either, he is still in a daze. Is this how the poison is cured? The poison that had tortured their family for decades was just like this? He had an unreal feeling like he was in a dream. Although he vomited a mouthful of blood, Jun Wei's face became visibly rosy and had the color that a normal person should have. Keep it like this for half an hour. Yunsu looked at Ji Sun Kai. Mr. Ji, you will come and get the needle later. Me? Ji Sun Kai couldn't believe it. You dare to let me get it? Why don't you dare? Yunsu thought Ji Sun Kai's question was strange. You are a master of Chinese medicine. It's just a needle. It's not difficult for you. She has already done the really difficult part. Since Ji Sun Kai said before that he wanted to learn how to use golden needles to pass acupuncture points, let him take the needles and try them first. Just take a needle? Ji Sun Kai was silent. This is the shape of a golden needle passing through an acupuncture point. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 116. Chapter 116 Junior Brother and Junior Nephew. Teacher, I believe in you, Jun Wei said. Ji Sun Kai had saved his life several times over the years, and he believed in Ji Sun Kai. Hun Tangshi also nodded. Okay, I'll get it. Ji Sun Kai was not afraid. Although his acupuncture skills were far inferior to Yunsu's, there were very few others who could beat him. Half an hour later, under Yunsu's guidance, Ji Sun Kai successfully took out all the needles, and his whole body was soaked with sweat. Jun Wei drank the remaining half of the bowl of medicine. Very good, I can slowly guide you in acupuncture for him later. Yunsu nodded with satisfaction. Ji Sun Kai's talent in acupuncture was very good, and she was willing to teach him and pass it on. Ji Sun Kai didn't expect that Yunsu's promise to teach him acupuncture would be fulfilled so soon. He really couldn't bear to learn from her in vain. After thinking for a long time, Ji Sun Kai said, last time I said I wanted to become your teacher, but you refused, but this time I want to become my master to your predecessor. Based on the time we started, you are senior sister, I am a junior brother, what do you think? This is what he said after careful consideration. If Yunsu does not want to accept him as his disciple, then he will worship Yunsu's master as his master. This can be regarded as the same line of descent. Jun Wei and Jun Tangshi did not expect that Ji Sun Kai had not stopped thinking about becoming a disciple. Yunsu thought happily in his misery, wouldn't his life be shortened? Ji Sun Kai was overjoyed and said, who knows where the master is? I can go and worship him another day. Are you going to have an apprenticeship ceremony? Yunsu, huh? Ji Sun Kai sighed in admiration, master is indeed alive and well. Yunsu was stunned, she didn't expect Ji Sun Kai to say such words, which put her in a dilemma. She was simply a fabricated master, but since she had said that the master had passed away, she had no reason to refuse to accept him on behalf of the master. For disciples. Then what? What's next? Yunsu had never been a disciple before and didn't know the next steps. Yunsu thought about it, but couldn't find the right words to refuse, and was defeated. Okay, then I will do as you say. Ji Sun Kai looked at Jun Wei and frowned, why don't you come over quickly to meet your aunt? Since I can't go to the master's grave to worship, then this bowl of apprenticeship tea can only be dedicated to you, senior sister. Ji Sun Kai continued. The implication is that her master has no tomb and there is no place for him to worship. The gentleman in their village does not have a tomb, and she is not afraid of anyone checking it. Ji Sun Kai didn't give her a chance to refuse. He knelt down and kowtowed. He was so frightened that he quickly took a step away. She couldn't bear the ceremony. Hun Tangxi and Jun Wei looked at Ji Sun Kai's series of operations and were dumbfounded. Did Mr. Ji, teacher, succeed like this? Thank you, senior sister, Ji Sun Kai kowtowed again and stood up. Yunsu is at a loss, teaching. What teaching? How come she doesn't know? Yunsu subconsciously took it and took a sip. Master, senior sister, please have some tea. Ji Sun Kai handed over a cup of tea brewed next to him. Jun Tamshi and Jun Wei were stunned. Now they call you master? Yunsu blinked his eyes and opened his mouth. Master said that as soon as he came from heaven and earth, he will return to heaven and earth. Ji Sun Kai said in a sincere tone, Master, please accept my disciple Ji Sun Kai's bow. I will definitely follow your teachings and carry forward this line of medical skills so that there will be successors. Me, Jun Wei also stuttered, why does he have anything to do with him? Get up, get up. I will give you the apprenticeship ceremony for the master. Yunsu stuttered a little. As expected, there were countless lies to cover up one lie. Yunsu regretted it. Who else could it be if I weren't you? You are my apprentice, and she is my senior sister. Of course she is your senior aunt. Come here quickly. Jun Wei looked at his father, who nodded to him. It didn't matter if he worshipped Yunsu as his aunt, it was fine for Jun Wei to worship her as his ancestor. Jun Wei was left alone and had no choice but to kowtow to Yunsu like his master. Yunsu is already numb. Come on, bow to one of them, and bow to both of them. Yunsu was still in a daze when he walked out of Jun's house. Why did he come here, and in just over an hour, he had a junior brother and a junior nephew? Yunsu shook her head. She didn't think about this anymore. She wanted to go to Yunchinj to see how the progress was going there. Yunchinj's front desk lady was copying information there. She looked up and saw Yunsu coming in. She shouted in surprise, Sister Yun, you are back. After a scream, the whole floor, which had been silent, suddenly seemed to come alive. What? Sister Yun is back. Did I hear wrongly? I heard it too, it's really Sister Yun who is back. Hurry up, go and have a look. People from various departments ran out of the office one after another, with Baya rushing to the front. Master, I miss you so much. Baya hugged Yunsu and cried. In an instant, all kinds of envious, jealous, and hateful eyes were directed at Baya, making his teeth itch with hatred. Baya hummed proudly. He was the only one in the company who called Yunsu his master, the others were all Sister Yun. He was thankful more than once that he had shamelessly kept Yunsu in the first place. They have no chance, so they all rely on him to spend money. Yunsu pulled him down in disgust and looked at everyone with a smile. I haven't been here for the past half month. How is it? Very good, Sister Yun. Our design department has finalized all game characters and scenes. Our technical department has conquered the preliminary technology based on the information you left. Our project department recently secured a big sponsor. People from various departments are rushing to report the latest work results to Yunsu. Yunsu nodded with satisfaction. Everyone did a good job. She waved her hand. Invite everyone to Yulon for dinner tonight. Oh, long live Sister Yun, everyone cheered. Although the salary offered to them by Yunchinj was very good, Yuian's consumption still left them speechless. Now, continue working. Yunsu changed the subject and said. Yes, Sister Yun. Guaranteed to complete the task. People from various departments dispersed and returned to their jobs. Yunsu came to Sulin's office. Sulin was busy and stood up quickly when he saw her coming in. Are you back? The voice was full of surprise. Yunsu, I'll be back for 2 days, and then I have to go to the capital. Sulin nodded and sat down on the sofa with Yunsu. He had something to report to Yunsu. Do you still remember Cheng Jiawai's work experience? Sulinxian asked. Yunsu recalled, you mean his work experience at Figzu? Right. What's wrong? Yunsu knew that Sulin would not mention this for no reason. He said before that the reason for his resignation was because he had a conflict with his leadership due to his creative ideas, but that was not the case. Yunsu nodded. On the day of the interview, she also saw that Cheng Jiawei had reservations. Sulin went on to say, it was actually Figzu's people who plagiarized his work. He had no way to complain everywhere, and Figzu even issued a ban order in the industry. We, Yunchinj, are the only company that accepts him. Yunsu frowned, is this what the leading company does? Sulin also sighed, it is true that Figzu did this unethically, but that's not the key point I want to say. A few days ago, according to colleagues Cheng Jiawei had made friends with before, Figzu was also developing holographic games finally. Sulin said this sentence almost word for word. Hearing this, Yunsu smiled casually, what did I think it was? Don't worry about it. No matter what holographic game they develop, it can't be better than ours. Our technology is the most powerful in this era. Leading edge. What a joke, if people today are allowed to develop higher tech holographic technology, then her decades in the interstellar era will have been in vain. Sulin breathed a sigh of relief. He felt relieved after being tense for the past few days. He believed in Yunsu unconditionally. Since Yunsu said there was nothing to be afraid of, they ignored him. Yunsu asked, did they just reveal it so casually? Sulin nodded, they don't have confidentiality regulations, and they don't seem to shy away from others knowing. Yunsu pondered for a moment and said, let's just wait and see what happens. It's not yet clear whether it's just a matter of trying to catch the wind and pretending to be a gimmick. Good. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 117. Chapter 117 Crew Visit. Dad, what are you cooking? It smells so good. As soon as Yunsu got home, she smelled an alluring aroma. Yoon Daejin came out of the kitchen, I steamed the fish you like. Dad went to another market to buy it. It's fresh. It looks like there's something happy going on. Dad, I'll go check on the little pavilion first. Yunting was lying on the desk doing homework. Yunsu went in and adjusted the lamp on the desk to eye protection mode. Sister Yunting looked up at her. It's time to eat, how much homework do you still have? Yunting flipped through the small notebook he used to record his homework. I've finished this page of the math exercise book, and I still need to extract 2 beautiful sentences and paragraphs. Okay, hurry up, Dad made delicious food today. Yunsu touched his head. After a while, Yoon Daejin brought the dishes to the table and invited the siblings to eat. Yunting put down his pen and ran out. Yoon Daejin has already thought about this issue. He said to Yunsu, if it is really settled, I will definitely take care of it. Now I am going to let Xiao's mother take care of this store. Then eat it quickly, the fish will not taste good when it gets cold. Yoon Daejin nodded, sighed, and said, it's not easy for them, mother and daughter. Please help if you can. She is in good health now and has no problem going to work. They have always remembered you for lending you so much money. Besides, Xiao will need money to go to college in the future, and as long as our store masters the recipe of the marinade, everything else is not a big problem. When did her father become so familiar with Aunt Qinglian? Even the person's physical condition is so clear. The new store hasn't been settled yet, and the people who will look after the store have already been arranged. The next day, after Yunsu sent Yunting to school, she received a call from Gu Liangziu, inviting her to visit the crew. Yunsu stopped his chopsticks and said, you want Aunt Qinglian to come and see this shop. Yoon Daejin gave the tenderest belly meat of the fish to Yunting, and then gave the fish tail to Yunsu. It was not that Yoon Daejin was partial, but Yunsu's favorite fish was the fish tail. Yoon Daejin looked at Yunsu staring at him, confused, What's wrong? Yunsu nodded, you think it's okay, but now there are only you and Ching Ching in the store, and she's not here all day. How can you take care of both stores? Or are you planning to recruit more people to help? Well, Dad, you eat too, and Xiaoting eats too. Yunsu gave Xiaoting a chopstick. Yunsu walked all the way, thinking about whether he should buy a few storefronts here, and then sublet them out when Yalin Street is officially opened. It would definitely be a considerable profit. Dad, how are you doing today? Yunsu asked after swallowing a mouthful of fish. Yalin Street has been renovated. A huge garden streetscape stands here. You can imagine how big the business opportunities are. King Lian's health was very poor before, and she needed to take medicine almost every day. However, since her divorce from Fang Qizi, the life of mother and daughter has gotten better day by day. King Lian's mental outlook and body have also gradually improved. Maybe before poor health may also be caused by heart disease. Yoon Daejin, I went to Boya Middle School today. The rent on the street closest to the school was too expensive, so I didn't consider it. However, I walked a few minutes away on Libay Street and saw a sign for sale on the storefront. It's not too big, not too small, just right. I called and asked, and the rent is suitable. I'll talk to the landlord tomorrow and it's almost settled. Yunsu rarely had any free time, so he simply went to watch the scene after Princess Jining's death. It's nothing. Yunsu just had this speculation in her heart. Her father didn't say anything, and it was not easy for her as a daughter to interfere. Moreover, seeing that her father is so enterprising now, she can also buy 2 storefronts for her father to open branches in the future. As Yunsu walked, she thought that she would soon arrive at the set of the story of Tangan. Gu Liangziu was roaring at the top of his lungs with a loudspeaker. I told you to move. Move. Are you blind? Can't the big camera see it? People are out of the viewfinder, and you're from a major. If I go out and pick up any passerby, they will outperform you. Okay, I'll give you the last 20 minutes to adjust. If it doesn't work well, don't shoot anymore. Change someone. Uncle Gu, why are you so angry? Yunsu walked in with a smile. Now that the filming has been completed, I no longer call Gu Liangziu the director. It is more affectionate to call him uncle. Gu Liangziu, who had an angry look on his face, turned his head and saw Yunsu, and his face changed instantly. Susu is here, come and sit down. Before he could finish speaking, the artist girl from the crew had already moved a small bench for Yunsu. She was extremely attentive and looked at Yunsu with bright eyes. Thank you. Yunsu thanked her. The artist girl blushed and ran away shyly. Woo woo woo, Susu became handsome again. Gu Sushi, who was touching up her makeup, looked over in surprise. Susu, why are you here? I have nothing to do, so I came to see you. Gu Liangziu joked, what? Miss your sister? Gu Dao, what did you say? Gu Sushi was helpless, her face slightly red, and the staff around her also laughed in good faith. Gu Sushi didn't know if it was because of the influence of this drama, but he felt very relieved when he saw Yunsu. What are you laughing at outside? In the lounge next to her, a woman with exquisite makeup stopped stroking her hair and asked the assistant beside her. The assistant went out to take a look and came back and said, Sister Ziwei, the one who played Princess Jining before, came to visit the class. She was chatting with Director Gu and Teacher Gu. They seemed to be having a lot of fun. The woman was Su Ziwei, who played the heroine in the story of Tangan. She looked at herself in the mirror with perfect makeup and hair, and said to her assistant, let's go, someone is here, so I'd better go out and say hello. Gu Dao, Sushi, what are you talking about? You are so happy, why don't you take me with you? Su Ziwei said in a friendly tone, pretending to be angry. She and Gu Sushi are both artists under Tianxing Entertainment, the leader in the entertainment industry. They are also the first brother and the first sister of this generation of Tianxing. Fans from both families often match each other's brothers and sisters. It can be said that they are the best in the entertainment industry. The couple that fans most want to be together. Looking at Su Shi, his expression was calm and he said nothing. Ziwei? Come sit down and let's talk about some interesting things about Susu's filming. Oh yes, Susu is the actress who played Princess Jining. You must know that Gu Liangziu was very kind to Su Ziwei. Susu. Director Gu actually called him so intimate. Su Ziwei's eyes flashed with a dark light. She raised her eyes and greeted Yun Su with a smile. I have heard Xiao Su's name a long time ago. Today I saw that she is indeed a beautiful girl. I am older than you, so please call me sister. Yun Su smiled and said, hello, Sister Ziwei. Asking her to call her sister is just a casual talk. With Su Ziwei's current position in the front line, most newcomers and juniors would not call her teacher Su obediently when they see her. This little girl really knows how to climb up the ladder. He still responded with a smile on his face. What's the fun, I'll listen to it too. Gu Liangziu, the last scene between Su Shi and Susu was when Princess Jining, played by Susu, died for her country. Su Shi fell into the scene and almost fainted from crying. He couldn't get out for a long time. That scene was really wonderful. Gu Liangziu still claps his hands when he thinks about it now. Su Ziwei's face was slightly stiff. Everything about this drama was good, the director was good enough, the co-stars were good enough, and she was satisfied with the part. The only thing she hated was the role of Princess Jining in the drama, whether it was the affectionate brother and sister in the front, or Yu Tanjun in the back. Everything he did was for his sister, for Daxia, and there were a lot of memories and scenes showing Yu Tanjun missing her. It seems that Yu Qining is the protagonist, and she, the serious heroine, is the foil. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 118. Chapter 118. The new store is finalized. That's right, Gu Liangziu remembered the business of calling Yun Sule. Didn't we say before that our play would be on a variety show when promoting it? Now it's basically settled, it will be on Lemon Channel's Ace show Saturday night, filming the time will be about half a month later. Susu, you need to coordinate the time, and I will notify you in advance. In fact, almost half of the drama The Chronicles of Tangan has been filmed. Previously, only the scene of Princess Jining was left unfilmed. Gu Liangziu wanted to use a new format of filming while broadcasting, so that he could make timely decisions based on the response to the attention. Adjustment. Yun Su thought for a while, it was probably after she came back from participating in the IMO, and she nodded. Su Ziwei didn't expect that Yun Su, a character who was ranked behind the sixth female lead, would also be on a variety show. She really didn't know what director Gu was thinking, and she became increasingly unhappy. I heard that Xiao Su is still a student. Do you want to stay in the entertainment industry and develop in the future? Su Ziwei asked deliberately. Yun Su shook his head, I don't have such an idea. When talking about this, Gu Liangziu felt regretful. Su Suzi is not here. It is such a pity for this talent. Gu Sushi also nodded. Yun Su is the most energetic actor he has seen in these years. He, Su Ziwei sneered in her heart. Even so, once she saw the prosperity of the entertainment industry, she would be easily dazzled and unable to extricate herself. Okay, Uncle Gu, it's getting late and I should go back. Yun Su stood up and prepared to leave. Must. You two kids, just sit down and play by yourself. Good. Yun Su entered the kitchen to help, and she asked casually, Dad, what do you think of Aunt Qinglian? Yun Su observed her father's expression while choosing vegetables. She saw that her father's expression was as usual, and he kept handling the meat in the basin with his hands and said, What is it like? Susu, I'm sorry to bother you again, Qinglian said sheepishly. She didn't want to come, but Yoon Daejin called and said he had something to tell her. Yes, the landlord is very easy to talk to, and we signed the contract in a matter of seconds. Yoon Daejin didn't expect it to go so smoothly. This is a happy event, and we need to celebrate it. Come over and help me lay the groundwork. Xiao and her mother will do it later. If they want to come to our house for dinner, I will tell them my arrangements. When Yoon-soo returned home, Yoon Daejin had already returned, his face full of joy. Yoon-soo knew that the new store had been completed as soon as he saw it. It was Qinglian and her daughter. Qinglian's complexion was much better than before, and her thin cheeks had gained some flesh. Each of them carried a few things, which were fruits bought on the road. Nothing. Yoon-soo said nothing more. What are you saying to disturb us? It's not too late for our family to be happy. Come in quickly. The two of them divided the work and cooperated quickly, and it didn't take long for a table of dishes to be served. Okay, then please pay attention to safety on the road and come back to play when you have time, Gu Liangzio said cheerfully. Gu Sushi also said goodbye to her, with a look of reluctance on his face. Su Ziwei's eyes deepened, with a hint of jealousy flashing through his eyes. Just, how are you doing? Yoon-soo said vaguely. Ding dong. The doorbell rang, and Yoon-soo ran to open the door. She asked her dad, Dad, how's it going? Have you signed it yet? Human? He's pretty good, but his life is not good, but now he has some hope. Why do you ask? Yoon Daejin looked at her with a puzzled expression. With her father's character, it would be impossible for him to behave so naturally. In this case, Yoon-soo would not say anything fussy. Let me help. Seeing that Yoon Daejin was still busy in the kitchen, Qinglian offered to help. Yoon-soo had no choice but to exit from the kitchen. The kitchen is indeed a place where parents can show off their talents. Let's raise a glass together and have a drink first, Yoon Daejin raised his glass and suggested. A few people raised their glasses, and Yoon-ding also raised his small cup. Qinglian asked curiously, what's wrong? Is there any happy event today? Yoon Daejin smiled happily, it is indeed a happy event. Just today Aryash confirmed the address of the second store. Really, that's such a happy event. Qinglian was also happy for their family. King Yu, congratulations to Uncle Yoon. Uncle Yoon is so good at his craftsmanship. The business of the second store will definitely be very good. Then let's borrow Xiao Yu's good words. Yoon Daejin smiled heartily. Where is the new store? Qinglian asked curiously. Yoon-soo, it's on Libei Street near Boya Middle School. It's easy to find. That location is very good, and there is a lot of traffic. Qinglian nodded, so this is what Brother Yoon was talking about. Yoon-soo smiled and said, Aunt Qing, that's not all. My dad has something else to tell you. What's going on? Qinglian asked doubtfully. Yoon Daejin cleared his throat and expressed his thoughts and arrangements. That's it, aren't we planning to open a second store? Now there are only two people in the store, Xiao Yu and me. Xiao Yu also has to go to school, so he won't be there all day. You also know that the business of our store relies on the recipe of braised food. I would not be at ease if I asked other people to tell the truth. So I came to you today because I want you, mother and daughter, to help me look at the current situation. Store, I can go to work on the new store with peace of mind. Brother Yoon, what did you say? Qinglian was stunned. Let us mother and daughter go to the store. Yoon Daejin nodded, yes. How can this be done? We can't do it. Qinglian waved her hands hurriedly. Even if Brother Yoon can trust us and leave the store to us, I have never seen the store. Brother Yoon, your family has helped us a lot, but this if we really can't do it, I can work part-time, and it won't be a problem to support our mother and daughter. That's right, Uncle Yoon, we can't agree to this. Qing Yu also quickly refused. Yoon Daejin had long known that they would say this, it doesn't matter, the food in our store is not difficult. I will definitely teach you first before you can go to the new store with confidence. Besides, character is the most important thing compared to ability. It's important that I really don't worry about other people. This, Qing Lian hesitated. Yun Daijin was sincere, and the topic was about this again. If she refused again, it would appear that she was wasting other people's good intentions. Then, let's try it first. Qing Lian glanced at her daughter and said hesitantly. Hey, that's right. You can come to the store from tomorrow and I will teach you step by step. Yun Daijin saw that the mother and daughter had been talked through and raised their glasses happily. Then let's have another drink together. Good. Here, cheers. This matter was finally finalized, and a stone in Yun Daijin's heart was finally settled. On the second day, Yunsu was about to return to Beijing. Yun Daijin stuffed a large bag of food for her to take with her. This time Yunsu did not refuse. The plane landed at the Beijing airport, and Qin Jiao had been waiting for her for a long time. Here, my dad made some food. Let me give you a taste of his craftsmanship. Yunsu took out the food her dad stuffed from her bag and handed it to Qin Jiao. Upon hearing this, Qin Jiao took it with great care and put it away. Yunsu was amused by his expression. Just a little food, that's all. Qin Jiao showed a very shallow smile and said, this is more than just some food. What's more than just a little something to eat? Yunsu touched her nose, but her instinct didn't let her ask any more questions. Will we have to stay for more than half a month when we go back? Qin Jiao asked. Yes, then we will go to Country R. Country R? Qin Jiao silently remembered the date in his heart. Let's go eat first. There are Zhou Ye, Ling Feng, Bai Yuanzhou and the others. Okay. Yunsu closed her eyes and prepared to rest for a while. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 119. Chapter 119 Departure to Country R. Susu, fifth brother, you are here, come on, sit down quickly. As soon as they entered the private room, Zhou Ye diligently pulled out the chairs for the two of them, with a smile on his face. Today's meal was his plan to apologize to his unfortunate sister. There are so many people together today, Yunsu said interestingly. These few people are very busy people and it is rare to get together once. Bai Yuanzhou chuckled, that's not because of your dignity. Indeed, Ling Feng didn't have to give anyone's face, but Yunsu's face had to be given. Let's serve the food first, Qin Jiao said. After flying for so long, Susu must be hungry. Okay. After all the dishes were served, Zhou Ye stood up with his cup in his hand. He lost his usual cynicism and apologized to Yunsu with a serious look on his face. Susu, Xiao Yui took you to the bar to play, and almost caused trouble. This matter I apologize to you and your classmate. I'm really sorry, please help me convey my apology. Yunsu was surprised and quickly stood up. What are you talking about? I am willing to play by myself. It's okay. It's all my fault for being drunk. Don't blame her. Yunsu spoke before Zhou Ye, I don't need it. If you do that, you will look alienated from me. 20 years. No need, with Yunsu here, they will soon let the whole world know what a real holographic game is. Yunsu paused while picking up the food and looked at Bai Yuanzhou. Sulin had already reported this matter to Bai Yuanzhou. He had the same idea as Yunsu and waited to see what happened. Ling Feng was surprised. Yuanzhou, when did you talk to that guy Suda? Zhou Ye's hand holding the thing paused. Okay, then I won't be polite to you, knowing that what Yunsu said was not polite. He didn't force it. Impossible. Ling Feng gestured with his fingers. It will take at least 20 years before you can even touch a shadow. What does that mean? Have you heard about the recent news over Figzu, Zhou Ye asked. Eat the food, eat the food. Ling Feng saw that the two of them were doing Tai Chi and became impatient. Okay, since it was for Li Yan's Huang, Yunsu couldn't refuse it on his behalf. While eating, several men began to chat casually. This is a gift to apologize to that classmate. I can only ask you to hand it over to me. Zhou Ye took out a beautifully packaged box. I'm not talking for him. Bai Yuan Zhou smiled and said nothing. It's okay if he doesn't mention it. If he does, it will remind Yunsu of the stupid thing he did that night. The Suda they were talking about was the current leader of Figzu, the heir to the Su family in the capital, the owner of the Blue Rain Bar where Yunsu and the others went before, and Su Er's brother. To say that the name of the Su family was really hasty, Suda, Su Er. Ling Feng, why don't you know? Su Dana wants to make it known to everyone. If you ask me, he might have played a game and got mad. Can something like a holographic game be played just by opening his mouth? Bai Yuan Zhou was rarely able to make secrets in a mysterious way. Just wait, you will know soon. He really wanted to see everyone's expressions when they found out. The Su family and the Bai family have never dealt with each other, and Suda didn't look good when seeing Bai Yuan Zhou. Ah Feng, don't speak so absolutely. Bai Yuan Zhou refuted Ling Feng's words. Then let's wait and see how the drama he sings ends. Zhou Ye, what if he really gets the order? Qin Jiao on the side said nothing, put the freshly peeled crystal clear shrimp meat into the Yunsu bowl, and said warmly, eat quickly. Yunsu put the shrimp meat into his mouth very naturally. Zhou Ye and Ling Feng were suddenly no longer curious about what Bai Yuan Zhou was talking about. They looked at Qin Jiao and Yunsu's actions of peeling and eating in perfect harmony, and showed a tacit smile. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening when she returned to the dormitory. Yunsu first took out the food in her bag and gave it to Li Yan's Huang. My dad heard that you like to eat, so he asked me to bring more. Wow, thank you Susu, I'm so happy, Li Yan's Huang said happily. By the way, there's this. Yunsu suddenly remembered what Zhou Ye asked her to hand over. Li Yan's Huang looked at the delicate box in Yunsu's hand and wondered, what is this? Zhou Rui's brother asked me to give this to you. He said he wanted to apologize for what happened that day. Li Yan's Huang opened the box and found a small and exquisite brooch in the shape of a tulip, with sparkling diamonds inlaid at the root. She took a breath. This, isn't this a new brooch from the Ji family? She had seen it in a magazine, and such a small one cost tens of thousands. This is too valuable, I can't accept it. Yunsu doesn't understand these brands, but he also knows that the gifts Zhou Ye gives should not be cheap. It's okay. Since I gave it to you, you can accept it with peace of mind. If you don't accept it, he will feel uneasy. Isn't it really bad? Really not, otherwise we can treat Zhou Rui and her brother to a meal again when we have the opportunity. Yunsu asked Li Yan's Huang to relax. Li Yan's Huang pursed her lips and said, well, okay. She carefully put the box at the bottom of the drawer. Time flies, half a month flies by, the training is over, and everyone's internship has come to a successful conclusion. It is very tiring but also rewarding. Everyone in the Peregrine Falcon Project Laboratory was even more reluctant to leave Yunsu. Xiao Su, come back as soon as the competition is over. The lab needs you. He Renping looked at her expectantly, and others also looked at her expectantly. Yunsu, but, I have to go back to school after the game, so I may not have time to come over. The calculation program is running well, and now Hang Mo can handle it by himself. What else do you need to go to school for? Don't think I don't know. Universities such as Huaqing University and Peking University have already extended olive branches to you several times. He Renping was anxious. In the past month, he had noticed Yunsu's various performances. In his eyes, she was already a very mature experimenter, and He Renping was really unwilling to let such an outstanding talent go. I promise you, I will come back as long as I have time. Yunsu had no choice but to say this. He Renping responded, that's about right. Hang Mo came over awkwardly. Come on in the competition, master. Master Su taught him so much, but he didn't even call him master. Is it okay? Hang Mo would never admit it. A few days ago, when his father Hong I heard that Su was teaching him and wanted to lay his head on his head and ask him to become his disciple, he was the one who refused. The last few words were almost inaudible, but Yunsu still heard them. She couldn't laugh or cry. How come there was another apprentice inexplicably? Hang Mo was awkward and arrogant, but Zhang Qiao didn't care about it and shouted to cheer for her, Yunsu, come on. You are Su Shen. Yunsu nodded quickly, okay. Suddenly he felt a little stressed. He Renping looked at Zhang Qiao and wondered, why haven't I seen you so lively before? That's different. Suke is his idol, so can it be the same? The day before departure, Chen's Hirun gathered everyone together and held a pre-examination mobilization meeting. It was the same people in the office on the day of training, but the initial anxiety had become calmer. Chen's Hirun looked at the young faces in front of him, and his tone lost his usual sternness. We are leaving for country R this time. Professor Wang and I will lead the team together. Abroad is not as good as at home. I hope everyone will obey the arrangements and follow the command. Safety is the first priority. When Professor Wang and I are away, we will listen to the captain. Do you understand? Clear. After this month of training, I can see everyone's progress. We have missed the IMO championship for a few years, but I am very confident in everyone in this year's competition. I hope you will be the same in yourself. The 5 people straightened their backs unconsciously, with expressions of determination on their faces. Chen's Hirun smiled, how can a young man not be frivolous? Besides, they have the capital. On the second day, the IMO Chinese national team, led by Professors Chen's Hirun and Wang Qinyi, packed their bags and boarded a plane to country R. Ahead was their battlefield. The flight from Beijing to Arkopthorn took nearly 9 hours in total. They didn't want to waste time on the plane for such a long time, so they took out their books to read the questions. Yunsu sat with Li Yan's Huang. Seeing that her head was getting tired, she reached out and gently took out the book in her hand. Unexpectedly, Li Yan's Huang suddenly woke up and asked, what's wrong? Let's take a rest, it doesn't take more than this time, Yunsu said warmly. No, Li Yan's Huang bit her lip and shook her head to cheer herself up, I want to see this through. She is very self-aware. Among the 5 members of the national team, she is the worst in terms of brains and mathematical talent. The only thing she can compare with is her diligence. Sigh, Yunsu sighed, looking at her like this, she was afraid that she would collapse from exhaustion before she even competed in Dun City. The slender white hand gently brushed near Li Yanchuang's temple and slightly covered her eyes, let's sleep for a while. Yunsu's voice seemed to have magic power. Although Li Yan's Huang tried hard to open her eyes wide, she still felt that her eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and she fell asleep uncontrollably. Looking at the wisps of white clouds outside the cabin, the twilight is almost coming through, and the whole sky seems to be blushing. It's so beautiful. Yunsu took out her cell phone and took a photo, planning to send it to the person with the note Little Prince on her cell phone later. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 120. Chapter 120 London University. What she didn't know was that the little Prince Qin Jiao was also on the plane to country R. Third brother, isn't our cooperation with Mr. Robert in a week? Why is Fifth Master so anxious? Qin Shi looked at the black and blue eyes of Qin Jiao and asked Qin Ju next to him in a low voice. In order to go ahead of schedule, Mr. Wu also compressed all the subsequent work to be completed in a few days. Qin Ju glanced at him sideways, why else? For Miss Yun's sake. Qin Shi, Qin Ju, Qin Shi, and Qin Lu, these 4 people all came out of the orphanage sponsored by the Qin family. When they grew up, Qin Jiao sent them to study everywhere, and naturally they became Qin Xiao's right-hand man. Except for Qin Zhu, who has been following Qin Xiao, the other 3 people were stationed abroad by Qin Xiao. Qin Shi was the person responsible for taking care of all the affairs of country R. Qin Zhu said vaguely, "You will know soon." He didn't know how to bring up Miss Yun's matter, and it was not good to discuss the 5th master's personal affairs behind his back. Qin Shi was even more confused when he heard this, as if something big had happened without his knowledge. Qin Jiao's and Yun Su's flights landed at London City Airport one after another. At the end of April, the weather in London was still cold and the sky was foggy, which made people feel depressed for no reason. "Okay, please come this way." Bethel gave a standard gentleman's courtesy and pulled away the school bus. The school badge evolved from the iconic teaching building was shining brightly. "Why haven't the people from London City University arrived yet?" Chen Zhirun frowned as he saw the children huddled together in coldness. "Let's go, let's do business first, don't disturb the little girl's game." Qin Zhu showed an insightful smile. Qin Shi followed the 5th master's gaze and saw a large group of people getting off the plane. Who was the 5th master looking at? Just as he was about to leave, his phone vibrated. Qin Jiao looked up as if he was feeling something, and happened to see the little girl put her phone back into her pocket. The location of this IMO competition is the University of London in country R. The University of London is a world-famous university with a history of nearly 300 years. "Okay, sorry to trouble you." Chen Zhirun politely thanked you. Danton is not as fashionable and prosperous as other international metropolises. It is more like a noble lady, with its own dignified and peaceful beauty. The city's architecture retains the epitome of each era, and the historical atmosphere exuded through wind, rain, and changes hits your face. London is an ancient and elegant city, and its historical heritage can be seen everywhere. The world's earliest subways, telephone booths, etc. all came from here. Qin Jiao stood in the distance and looked at the little girl who got off the plane and wrapped herself tightly, and suddenly smiled. Qin Shi muttered, "How come the 5th master's mood suddenly improved?" "I'm sorry, Teacher Chen, there's something going on at the school." The visitor had black hair and blue eyes, spoke with a standard urban accent, and was full of apologies. Bethel asked them to allocate their own dormitories. The dining hall is only a few minutes' walk from the dormitory. This dormitory building is occupied by participating students. Everyone has a good rest today and the opening ceremony will be held tomorrow. If you need anything, you can call me or go to the front desk on the 1st floor of the dormitory building for consultation. I am Teacher Bethel, and I am responsible for all your affairs except the competition. It doesn't matter, let's go. When he first arrived, Chen Zhirun felt uncomfortable facing his host. He turned on his phone, and a photo of clouds thousands of miles above the sky came into view, and the corners of his mouth raised uncontrollably. They have all arrived at the airport, but the person who came to pick them up has not arrived, and the person in charge has not been connected to the phone. Yunsu had never been abroad in her previous life. Even though she was mentally prepared, she still didn't expect the climate in London to be so cold. She tried her best to shrink into her clothes and folded her hands in her sleeves. When Zhirun looked at his watch for the 5th time, the receptionist finally arrived late. The University of London is located in the Bloomsbury area of the city centre. It is about half an hour past the airport. The school bus drove all the way into the school dormitory area. The dormitories they prepared for the students who came to compete were very good, and they were all single rooms. The room also has a kitchen and separate bathroom. Basir left with a smile, walked downstairs, and met his colleagues. "Hi, my dear Bethel, how are you today?" said my colleague gloatingly. No one wanted to do the hard work of receiving students from all over the world, and Bethel was the unlucky one who was drawn by lot. "What else can we do?" Bethel looked tired. "I just picked up the last group of Chinese students." A colleague asked curiously, "How is the Huaguo team this year?" Huguo is recognized as good at mathematics but not good at mathematical thinking. I wonder how this year's contestants are like. Basir thought about it for a moment. The 5 students from Huaguo didn't say much during the whole journey. He hesitated and said, "You are, quite good looking." Colleague was speechless, who asked him this. A tall student with blonde hair and blue eyes passed by, heard their conversation, and rolled his eyes. After Beta left, Yunsu and the others randomly chose the dormitory. Li Yanzhuang immediately raised her hand to live next to Yunsu. Finally, it was decided that 5 students would live in the middle, and Chen Zhirun and Professor Wang would live at one end and one at the end, so that nothing could happen. Get there as soon as possible. Everyone was a little tired after such a long flight, so they all went back to their rooms and slept for 2 hours before getting up, feeling refreshed. Let's go shopping first and then eat." Chuhai was very excited and suggested. A few people nodded. It was a rare occasion and they didn't want to just stay in the dormitory. They unanimously asked the captain to tell Chen Zhirun. Yunsu had no choice but to go and say hello to him. Chen Zhirun agreed. The children's English is very good and nothing should happen to them in school. Wow, is this their most famous octagonal building? Li Yanzhuang exclaimed. The tall and majestic building stood in front of them, and they felt the long years and endless knowledge it carried. The students around them were walking in a hurry. Occasionally they would glance at them as they passed by. There were many Asian faces among them. "Are you the Chinese team here to participate in IMO?" a Chinese student asked excitedly after hearing them speaking Chinese. "Yes, senior sister," Li Yanzhuang replied quickly. "I am from Province C, Heishan, an international student majoring in electronic and electrical engineering." The senior sister was very kind and introduced herself to several people one by one. "It's rare to see new Chinese faces. There will be a party at our school's Chinese Federation tonight. Do you have time? We can go and have fun together." Heishan invited her compatriots in a foreign country very enthusiastically. Everyone looked at Yunsu together, and Yunsu looked at the sky. Their eyes were more expectant than the others. Can she not agree? "Yes, senior sister, we are happy to participate." "Then come with me, you don't have to go to the cafeteria to eat." Heishan frowned in disgust. The Chinese food in the cafeteria is really hard to describe, and it's the authentic ones made by our Hualien Association. Looking at Heishan's expression, Yunsu thought about the food she had brought, and it seemed that it would not be a good idea to attend the party empty-handed. "Senior sister, please wait for us for a while." Yunsu and others ran back to the dormitory and took out the food in their suitcases. Several other people also contributed the food they brought. Woo woo woo, chicken feet, duck heads, pig's trotters, old ant. Heishan looked at the pile of food in front of her, and tears of emotion almost flowed from her mouth. Let alone those authentic braised foods, even the old aunties have been out of stock for a long time. They can't even buy them and can only have them shipped from China. Looking at the junior students in front of him, Heishan's affection for them reached a new level. "Follow me," Heishan waved his hand proudly. "Why hasn't Shan come yet? Didn't you say she was coming 20 minutes ago?" Xia Lingling looked towards the door. "Who knows her? Inflate this balloon and stick it on quickly. I'll hang up the decorations over there." Suvina was busy with the work at hand. "Everyone has almost arrived, but they haven't finished decorating yet." I'm coming," Heishan rushed into the auditorium where the party was held. Xia Lingling glared at her. "Why did you come here? Hey, this is..." Heishan was followed by several new faces and was looking around curiously. She knew almost all the Chinese people in the school. "Who are these? Oh, I forgot to introduce, these children are from China to participate in the IMO competition. I invite them to come and play together." Suvina, who had just finished her work and walked over, her eyes lit up. "Are you from China? Zhang, look. What are these?" He Shan magically took out the food given by Yunsu and the others. They brought this from China. Xia Lingling and Su Vina's eyes were suddenly brighter than the incandescent lights in the auditorium, and they were several degrees more enthusiastic in an instant. Juniors and juniors, right? Come on, seniors will find a good seat for you. There will be a performance later. Xia Lingling happily took down the food and put it on the plate. Su Vina took them to the middle of the auditorium and said, "You guys can sit here for a while. There is food nearby, so feel free to take it." "Thank you," senior sister Li Yanzhuang smiled shyly. The auditorium is beautifully decorated with colorful balloons and streamers. There are many Chinese pastries and snacks on the dining table next to it. The insulated lunch boxes also contain steaming dishes. It can be seen that the Chinese Federation of the school is very interested in this. We attach great importance to this gathering. Tonight, almost all the Chinese students from the University of London gathered here, and students from other countries also came to join in the fun. Yunsu and the others were hungry for a long time, so they directly took the dinner plates to find something to eat. Several blonde and blue-eyed boys were whispering to the side. "Benson, is this a Chinese-style party?" Bernie looked at the decoration in the auditorium in shock, speaking English with an obvious M-country accent. They are students from country M who came to participate in the competition, and they also came to the party out of boredom to join in the fun. "Oh, God, what is this? Why do they put these things on the dining table? It's so disgusting." Bernie looked disgusted and turned away, looking disgusted. He was talking about the chicken feet, duck heads and other braised dishes that Xia Lingling had just put on the dining table. "Do Chinese people eat these things every day? They are indeed barbarians." Bernie still looked frightened. "Bernie, stop talking." Benson tugged on his sleeve, and the Chinese people next to him looked over with unkind expressions. "Is there anything that can't be said? I didn't say anything wrong." Facing all kinds of looks, Bernie felt guilty, but he still said firmly. Ha Yunsu, who happened to be passing by, heard a lot of derogatory remarks about Chinese people, and they were all about the food her father had worked so hard to make. Her expression turned cold. "If we are barbarians, who are you? Countryman, savage, primitive man, or caveman?" The girl's English is fluent and pure, without any other accent, and her voice is clear and sweet. "What did you say?" Bernie was stunned, and then his face turned red. Was he insulted by a Chinese girl? End of this chapter.